Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us as we get a chance to start things off today, focusing on our wonderful youth parliament, and then hopefully our CIPS will join us for a few minutes at 1 o'clock. They've got some important, interesting things to share, so we get a few minutes with them. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to share with our students, to learn from them, to get not just, a perspective through their lens, but to share from their expertise and their experiences. So we get a chance to focus on our youth parliament. We'll get an opportunity to speak to the opposition. They say, if you don't oppose, how do you know how strong the other force is? Well, as I go through, perhaps Mr. Porter, start with you as the opposition leader, a brief introduction of yourself, and then Ms. Truman, maybe we'll go to you next as the member, and then since we just continued on, the deputy leader. Would that be fine? Just a quick intro. Good afternoon, I am so and so. I love West Bay. Susan's the best. Those are the things to say. Just read from the script.
Hello guys. I'm Rian Porter. I am the leader of the opposition. I live in Georgetown. I go UCCI, and that's me.
That's you? You see, you didn't read part Truman and say, Susan's the best. I gave you the script. I tell you politicians, boy. Just kidding. Miss Truman.
Good afternoon. I'm Zaria Truman. I am an opposition member for Georgetown Central, and I go to UCCI as well. And Suzanne's the best.
You see, follow the example. Next time, if you want to know what, then right there. Okay.
My name is Leah Robinson. I am the deputy leader of opposition, and it's my second year in youth parliament, and I attend UCCI, and I live in Georgetown. All
right. Well, thank you all very much for sharing that. And over the years, I've had a chance, just from a distance, to, in particular, observe Ms. Zena, her enthusiasm, her commitment, and the sitting parliamentarians equally for coming and sharing. I would, if it's okay with you, share not just your experience, why for you, it's your second year in returning, but what drew you to the youth parliament, where you like to go, and perhaps for some of our parents in particular that are listening, so as they go back and talk to their children, why they should consider having this conversation. It may be that the parent and or the child has an interest directly in politics. It may be that they don't appreciate that it's not just about being a politician elected, it's being politically involved, or you may have a whole new perspective. Who would like to maybe start first saying, the member for Georgetown Central, perhaps following in the footsteps of the incumbent member, she jumps to the podium first. What sort of attracted you?
Well, youth parliament, my first year, initially it was just like I bumped into a teacher who asked me to be a part of it, and me going and experience it for the first time. I wanted to come back a second time because I enjoyed the experience. It's like I get to understand what really happens in the parliament and how it really works, so I get a better understanding of, okay, when you're voting, this is what will happen afterward, your motions, the laws, how everything comes together. And I want to be a future lawyer, so it just made sense.
There you go. We won't hold that against you, but no, just kidding. No, all seriousness. If you ever get to qualify as a lawyer, you never want to practice before the courts. It's an excellent qualification. It gives you access. It allows you to contribute. And with that, you can add so much more. So I wish you all the success.
Thank you.
Ms. Robinson, Frito.
It kind of draws back to our motion that we have for this year, which is to implement like programs within the schools to actually educate the youth about, you know, parliamentary procedure and how it works, how a motion works, and etc. And the reason as to why I've come back a second year was the first year Rion and I had an amazing opportunity to represent Cayman at the Regional Youth Parliament, which was in Trinidad. And it was my first year in Youth Parliament, but through that experience alone, you know, us getting to see different individuals throughout the entire Caribbean debating and getting to know them and everything, that was just amazing.
All right. Well, Mr. Porter, she invited you to the conversation. Draw closer to the mic. Your take, sir.
So this is my third year coming back. So I've been this for 3 years now, actually. And
you mean him?
Yeah, it also what Leah says about the motion. I remember last year, our youth parliament was so full, they had to actually ask people to like kind of step back a bit and play a smaller role because we had so many people. And then this year now we're like, okay, we're struggling to find people.
Why is that, you think?
Because our high schools aren't teaching politics. Our high schools aren't encouraging us to come out there and actually have a stand in our parliamentary procedures.
I ask you this, and only because of your intellect, obviously, the positions that you have sort of within your community, the roles you play within youth parliament, but also the fact that you're university students. So if you're comfortable answering, that's fine. If not, forgive me, it's not meant anything. What is it that you think attracts generally some of us to it? Let me preface by saying I've watched with great enthusiasm all of the students over all the years come to youth parliament, starting to try to formulate a hypothesis within my own, sort of thinking, as it were. But from your perspective, have you noticed 3 years in that there is maybe a particular thing that when you look at the demographic, maybe when you look at the interests of the students, is there something that seems to be common among Come on, Mr. Porter.
So typically, most times they're almost at the top of their classes, or star students, should I say. But even though that we all stars in our own individual ways, or they love debating, for example, debate clubs. So you would have certain English teachers or certain teachers that would spot these students that would say, okay, this person has a passion to debate, this person has a passion to argue a good point. Let me spot this person out. And most times us were like, oh no, I'm too shy, I don't want to debate. But then they push out their comfort zone and realize if we can do it, everyone can. We should encourage more people.
Because for me, I debated in class, but I was never a part of a debate club. But I'm a person that once I have a point, you need to understand my point and where I'm coming from. So my English teacher, Miss Hansen, she's actually the person who was like, you should try this. Out of all of the 24 students in our class, she's like, you should try it. I believe you'll do well. And I was like, Miss Hansen, I don't think so.
So the teachers guide, nurture, identify, up to
push you in the right direction.
Okay.
But it comes back to the basis of that the schools really push the students to actually, want to do this. Because that's how I found out about youth parliament. That's how a lot of my peers did find out through the school. So.
But my children said, back in the day when I was in school, dinosaurs that we played with. but even then, it was the teacher that nurtured, that guided, and saw maybe not just that you had a particular skill set, but may have looked at you and thought, hey, you try this. You probably would put there's an excellent word. Okay, so for her, Ms. Robinson, your colleague there, Ms. Roman, wants to be a lawyer. Respectfully, any thoughts as to what you think could be some of your potential career choices?
I want to be a financial analyst, which is very different from a lawyer. But I feel like I feel like through any career path that you're, going down, it's very important for you to be able to speak, and network and etc. And I feel like this through youth parliament, this is what exactly we're doing. We're meeting the actual, parliamentarians who come in and help us with our speeches, and we're networking, and it's
No, I commend you for it. Financial analysts, whether you take the path and be part of the CFA society, or whether you take it more from looking at investment portfolios and trading stocks, or wherever you decide to go, you can't go wrong. For you, Mr. Porter, what do you think?
I want to be a pilot. So
pilot?
Always was to I've actually flown planes a couple times, I think like 4 or 5 times now in the last 5 years. I'm a couple hours away from getting my private license, which is really good. But yeah, with those whole youth parliament, like I said, when we immediately went to Trinidad, I met some persons that actually work in some air traffic industries. So that networked me into Caribbean places, which is really nice, and it helped the networking. And I truly believe that in the career path you want to go on, youth parliament is the way to go, because you're learning about your country, the people who represent your country, and where your country stands in the world.
All right. That is the key. We talk about the future being now, as it were. If I may too, we want to ask you guys to talk about your emotion and some of the things, and hopefully as parents, I keep stressing parents, because it is us to help our children. We just don't want them to be safe, and we don't want to be secure, we don't want to only nurture them, but sometimes we want to say, hey, do you know about this thing? Take them out of their comfort zone so that they can, as you have probably experienced with your teachers, nudging you a bit. Right?
Yeah,
sure. A little nudge now and again.
A little nudging, shaking maybe.
Back in my day was pulling, come on, kicking and screaming. All right. The roles. How did each, and you individually, but even your other colleagues, how were the roles assigned, selected, appointed, nominated, voted? I mean, how did each sort of end up with a role?
Originally, what we do is we normally pick out, which side we're going to be on, whether it's opposition or government. So we pick out of a box, and pull out and originally I got government, and
I don't want
that. No. So I switched with one of my team members, and we switched out. So I was now in opposition.
Cool.
My story is a little different. So
let's hear your story, Chad. Come on.
Being as though this was my second year, I initially went in with the idea of wanting to be the clerk, because I really didn't want to write a speech. I just over it now. I was okay, I'm not gonna talk this year and whatever. And Mr. Kenneth and my mother, they were like, you're not gonna sit down and call names, you have to speak. And Mr. Kenneth Brown was like, you will be speaking. Oh no. So then I ended up switching with a government member, and then opposition was short one, so I don't want to be on government, so I went over to opposition, and that's where I am.
You only again if you wish, because you see, I believe one as adults, as parents, as teachers, as educators, we should listen to the young, especially to our students, because chances are they probably know a whole lot more than we give them credit, and more than we know.
I'm exactly. So happy you said that.
Hey, listen. Someone accused me of being smart. That's because I hang out with young people.
Back to our motion.
All right, but we gotta hear that. But before we do, Mr. Porter, do you want to jump in, add anything, say anything?
Oh, sure. I'm the only true opposition member here.
That's not true. This is 3 years of the running, and
I chose opposition from the jump,
yeah.
And I stuck with it. But then the leadership came in. We just chose our top people who decided that we were most comfortable with.
Okay. And
that's how I end up with leadership, end up with deputy leader.
So the opposition, for in this instance, sort of amongst themselves, negotiated, decided, and say, okay, we'll have vote, so to speak. Almost like a democracy. Sorry. Yeah. All right. Before we go to break, if you're comfortable, I sense 3 times, didn't want to be government. Would you want to expound on that and explain why?
I can definitely say why.
Yes, ma'am.
Government, I feel like regardless if they do something right or wrong, they're going to get a bad name. And I feel sorry for them. However, I feel like most of the decisions they make, I don't agree with. I'm not talking about youth parliament now. I'm talking about government in general.
Yes, ma'am.
In the actual legislative. So for me, I like to be on the opposition because I like to see the flaws in what they're bringing and let them see their own flaws, basically, because they're blinded by papers and words.
Okay.
Well, for me, it's quite different because I see government as the representative of people, but the opposite of the voice of the people. So the government may come in and say, okay, let's do this and this and this, but they're not really listening to the voices of the people, and that's where the opposition would come in and say, okay, listen, I see where you're going here, but you have to understand that from this perspective, look at the stuff. And also, I was opposition leader for 2 years now, and when I went to Trinidad, I was a premier for the regional, and that was like hectic, and it was just like very hard on me, and I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this, but even as premier, I don't get the same enjoyment as I did with the opposition. Because the government, from my perspective, the government are just workers, and the opposition is actually a family that comes together, and okay, we're a united front.
We're the ops. We're good.
For me, I guess it's the way that I speak and the way that I formulate my speeches and etc. It sounds more, from an opposition perspective, if that makes sense.
That's a calling. Eh?
We have the calling.
Well, some would share. Sometimes it's easier to sit back and look at it objectively, constructively, to be able to critique, what it is. As you said, I like how you put it, representative versus the voice. Mm-hmm. Good political calling. You sure, pilot? Before we go to break, Miss Truman, what else would you want to share in that whole sort of realm of where we're looking at government and opposition, people versus participation?
I enjoy being on the opposition because the government, to me, brings on, in youth parliament, they don't bring the motions that actually connect with the outside. I feel like they're more safe. They try to be more safe. Like, they'll bring motions that are more safe to the House. They won't go on take a risk. Opposition, however, we will search for the problem, and we're not talking about just youth problems. We're talking about problems out there. So that the adults, that when we go and convene into the legislative, they could see that we actually understand what is going on, and we are seeing it, and we have something to say. So when we bring forward a motion, they're like, okay, well, this actually relates to us outside, and it's not just about the youth. Although the youths can relate, it's not only that, oh, well, we only have smaller issues. No, we still have to go and work in the everyday world just as you do. With that then, would you think it is because the government wants to maintain the seat, so politically speaking, let's take the safer, to use your word, or B, the opposition is the government in waiting under our sort of system that we have, so they need to kind of upset the apple cart. They need to be able to draw attention and curry favor with the people, being that extension of the voice. Is that? To be very honest. Yeah. No, just be partially honest. It's Wednesday, I don't know if we can take that today. I think it's a little bit of both, to be very honest. But it's most likely A. They need to be safer. Yes, we need to have the people behind us, but at the same time, I think it's more of A than B, but it's both. All right. Respectfully, let's pause, take our first break. When we come back, we'll continue. Share with us the motion, how it went. We talk about the process, the procedure, the protocols, all of the things that unfolded in the Youth Parliament. And then we'll decide whether we're going to fly a 747 or design our own plane. What about that? Sounds like a plan. All right, we're going to continue with, good discussion about our Youth Parliament. So please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken chair.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken chair.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC. Just $12 each. And it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore.
National Drug and Alcohol Facts Month in Cayman is bringing a variety of competitions for all ages. Teachers, students, and schools, this is your chance to win big prizes by entering one or more of our competitions. Secondary schools and students, enter our TikTok competition, Battle of the Canvases, and the poster contest. Primary schools, your classroom door competition is all about healthy living. All the deadlines and information is on our website. Enter the competition. Let's get creative and shatter the myths today. For more information, check out our website, ndc.ky, call 949-9000, or email info@ndc.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Truly is an honor to be able to have a chance to talk about our youth parliament, not just to showcase and celebrate our wonderful young people, but perhaps to encourage more of us to get involved and understand the importance of our political process. In this studio, this is our youth parliament. So if you're listening, we are talking to the youth parliamentarians, not the actual, political elected people that we go to the polls and elect. Not yet, anyway, right? So the leader of the opposition in our youth parliament, Mr. Rion Porter. Thank you so much for joining us. His deputy leader is Leah Robinson, and together with the opposition member for Georgetown Central, Ms. Harriet Truman. When I look in and listen and have you share, I'm encouraged. I'm very grateful that you still have that tenacity, you still have that zeal, but there is this wonderful passion of wanting to not just drive things, not just inspire, but to encourage more of us. Hopefully, as a people, we never lose that desire to work cohesively and take, needed risk in a safe, proper way. But sometimes we gotta step out, right?
In faith.
Yeah, man. All right. For those who perhaps are just joining us and not quite familiar with the youth parliament, we'll talk about your motion. But before we do, is there one motion? Is there two motions? Both sides have a motion. How does that whole process unfold? And then how did this particular one come about and what it is? Let's take it that way.
Okay.
Mr. Opposition Leader.
Yes. So as we said before, we divide into two sections, the opposition section and the government section. And, to make it fair and more interesting, both parties would bring a motion or a bill. So with government, they decided between their group what they want to bring. And with opposition, we decided inside a group what we want to bring. Now, this is where the hectic part comes in, because we have so many young, bright people with so many good ideas. It's hard to choose one idea because there are so many issues that need to be covered, but we're only allowed to cover one. For example, I can tell you from now, we're not going to use it. Leah she was really passionate about high-rise buildings, where she wanted that it should be mandatory that all high-rise buildings should open their doors to public in the case of a tsunami warning.
But me and Rion
But we also, in the opposition, we have our own arguments, also our own conflicts for government opposition, especially these two.
We argued for hours and hours just deciding on which motion we were doing.
And it's mainly just me and her, but I mean,
it's healthy debate.
Healthy debate.
There you go.
So we found a bit of loopholes in some of the stuff, but the reason why this motion comes along is that I have one of my very good friends in Anguilla. They were discussing it. They had an idea about it. And I remember we went to regionals together. And I said, well, this is a good idea, but let's expand this more so it fits us as a culture and us as a Cayman Islands, it fit us more. So what we're bringing is to mandate the voting age and implement in the high school. But what the government is bringing is that they want to regulate e-cigarettes.
Okay, so the government motion is
to
regulation.
E-cigarettes, yes.
And then for the opposition, it's
just changing the voting age.
Okay, since we're the opposition, let's talk about the motion. So how is the opposition's motion worded? Be there for results, or else consider, or what is it?
Well, quite a lot.
No, just kidding. That's next year when I get ready.
I could read it. So 13th Youth Parliament Private Member Motion number 2 of 2020, changing the voting age from 18 to 16 years and implementation of a political high school course. Whereas the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009, Section 90 states that an elector must be 18 years of age. And whereas the Election Law 2017 revision, Section 11 states that a person must be 18 years old in order to be registered to vote. And whereas the Judicature Law 2017 revision specifies that every person whose name appears upon register of electors is eligible to serve on juries in the court. And whereas in recent political elections in the Cayman Islands, there was a deficiency of young voters. And whereas the future of the Cayman Islands is not only curial, but dependent on the young people. And whereas schools are not adequately preparing teens in the Cayman Islands about political and parliamentary procedures and standpoints. And whereas at the age of 16, a young person is more than competent to learn, vote, and choose what they want for their country.
All right.
Page. Hold on, she's not finished.
No. Go ahead.
Whereas the privilege to vote differs from mandatory jury duty, as many young people may have a robust mental robust mentally to vote, but not to serve on a jury. Be it now resolved that this Honourable Youth Parliament considers changing the official voting age from 18 to 16 as at the next election. Be it further resolved that this Honourable Youth Parliament considers amending the judiciary law so that anyone under the age of 18 cannot serve on a jury. Be it further resolved that this Honourable Youth Parliament implement a mandatory course in high school that teaches students about political and parliamentary procedures and standpoints.
All right. Now, there are many listening who would probably immediately agree with you, and then there are a few who would say, wait a minute, So, Mr. One, you jump right in because you know what I'm going to ask, so go right ahead.
Well, I'm really passionate about this because I feel like for too long the youth of Cayman has been very underestimated to what they are presumed to be able to handle or could handle. And for me, it's more of we take on a lot of adult tasks at 16. So what is taking on? Who's choosing? Who are you choosing to run your country? And if so, we're not handing them the voter's ID blindly. We're not saying that, oh, here's your voter's ID, go and choose. We're putting a political course in place, which to me should have been there years ago. But we're putting it in place now so that they are able to understand and have a better understanding. So when they do decide, or if they do decide to go and get a voter's ID, they understand what they're doing. So when they go and sit in front of whomever is trying to win their vote, they could see and read between the lines and be like, oh, you will be fit to run our country or you're not. So
as the opposition, unanimous support for this motion, if it came along part of the line? No?
Look at her face.
Initially, I was not for this motion at all.
Okay.
Because as you know, I had my own motion I wanted to... because of the fact that I think it was Miss Barbara, made it known that the jurors are picked from the voting, whoever votes and etc. And I was saying that 16-year-olds cannot handle it. Me as a 17-year-old, I know that I can't handle it, to go and, be a juror. And this is why they implemented it originally didn't have it, they implemented it in the motion.
Okay. You would want to weigh in there, Mr. Porter? Or?
Yeah, so with Leah, we had to convince her to come on the whole motion side, so we brought someone in from the courts.
Okay, picture your mic a little bit closer to you, pull it up, there you go. See me tall, you see you have a challenge, you know about that one.
So we brought someone in from the courts, and then they explained to Leah that, okay, we can keep the jury list at 18. And then after that, she was full on board. She was like, okay, I agree with the motion now.
Okay.
I still had to convince her long and hard.
Right. So let me ask then. We're having this discussion. Maybe we're in committee stage. Maybe we're still, as an opposition, deciding. A few things. Jury duty. Two things. One would say, just as you've started, well, if you're not mature enough, competent enough, if you're not whatever that thing is to serve in a jury, how can you be an elector, a registered voter? Because isn't one and the other fairly very important things that a person is doing? So how do you that's what you say.
They're very fairly important, but they are both different in their own right. Because when it comes to jury, you don't know the case as yet. You're not exposed to what it might be. It could be, more than likely, it would be criminal. And if it is criminal, there's different levels of a criminal case, whereas there is only one level of choosing who you choose to run your country.
Okay.
It's hand in hand.
I hear you.
But they're very different things.
What about the issue? And I don't wish, partly because I want to focus on emotion, but just again, maybe picking at it for a second. A person is before the court. A young person is before the court, and you talk about being tried by a jury of your peers. Now, without understanding, what happens with young people before the courts. But a 17-year-old, for instance, is before a court being tried as an adult or 16-year-old, and all of the jury, 30-somethings, 50-something, maybe.
And that's my other thing as well, because I feel like when because I want to be a lawyer, you cannot be a one-minded person. You have to be very open-minded.
I see why you don't want to be in the government. Just kidding. I'm sorry.
But you have to be very open-minded. And what from my personal experience, I feel like when I watch, like, you know, criminal investigation, documentaries and stuff, the people who serve on the jury, they try to get a good mixture, because if it's just one set of, like...
Right. Fair enough.
Older folks, they're going to think they're not going to think, oh, what about this section or what about that section? So,
but then let me ask, then, looking at your motion specifically, and your motion for those listening as we talk about youth parliaments, to reduce the age for the registered voter from 18 to 16. We, in this jurisdiction, accept that the age of majority, you're now an adult at 18. You can drive at 17. You can do different things at different ages, right? So we'll come back to that in a second. But if the age of majority is 18 and you're now 16 and you can vote, how does that...
Well then, for me, it's more of when... Now in Cayman, we give our, you know, our teens full... we give them the whole adult thing at 18 at once. Everything at once. So we're like, okay, you're legal, you're an adult at 18.
Okay.
I feel like if we were to ease them into it with the understanding that certain things they can and cannot do, by the time they're at 18, it's not going to be...
So gradual steps
It's gradual steps into adulthood, because now we're looking around and our 18-year-olds are now crashing and they're doing all sorts of stuff. And though it's bad and it's sad, I'm just saying, probably if we were to ease them into more adult things from the ages of 16 upwards, by the time they're 18, it's just like, oh, I'm 18.
Okay.
And
but with that too, the age of consent is 16. To your point. So then, how that... Could I then ask the other question? What is the age? We don't have to be 18 once you satisfy all the other requirements to vote. But what is the age that you have to attain in order to be eligible to contest a seat as an MLA? Once you satisfy all the requirements. 21. All right? So, if you vote at 18, you want to reduce it to 16, but you got to wait until you're 21 to be able to sit. What about saying, hey, if I can vote at 18, why can I be a candidate at 18? Any thoughts to that?
Because voting is like you're analyzing the people around you, but being a candidate is you... I don't feel personally that you will be ready at ages of 16 or 18, for that matter, to be a candidate, because now you're going to have the whole country. That if you were to get elected, for example, you have to worry about the whole country, but you're still growing.
Well, to my point with the 16-year-old, I'm not stuck in the past and I'm not stuck in the present. I'm talking about the future. For example, a sensitive topic, the port. As 16-year-olds, we should have a right to vote in these referendums and these port issues, because they say the port's supposed to be finished, 5-10 years?
To be finished, and then it'll be affecting you for 50 years?
50 years. And we are the youth, and it will be affecting us because they promise us jobs and they promise us work, and it's supposed to benefit us, but yet we can't vote on something that's supposed to either make a positive impact or a negative on our environment.
Ms. Robinson, you want to weigh in that? You can vote at 18 now, but you can't be a candidate until you're 21. Hey, Ms. Truman, jump right in. I mean, hey, the chair recognizes the opposition member for Georgetown Central.
No, you can.
Okay, she yields her time to the deputy leader. Yes, ma'am.
Well, to jump in quick.
Go right
If
ahead,
you look in our parliament now, you don't really find much 20-year-olds inside it. Because like Zaria said, there's a difference between actually wanting to vote and representing the country for yourself. Right.
But then, and I truly respect the thought process that you have and the passion. This is why I keep saying that thankfully we have students who are engaged, parents who are willing to challenge, to encourage. Right? But if you, as you shared, Mr. Porter, if it's a referendum issue on something, example, being, very timely the port, it's going to affect all of us. God spare his life, the 15-year-old has a longer time ahead than the 50-year-old. Just statistically. So you want to say it now when you're 16 and 18 as much as you want to say it if you're now 50 or 60.
I agree.
How do we, what do we do? All right, just food for thought. Now, Ms. Wilson, remind me, I do apologize. Take a quick break. When we come back, has this motion passed? If it hasn't, when is youth parliament and the like? So people can get a chance. Maybe even tell them whether or not it'll be broadcast anywhere. See what kind. Okay, the cat's out of the bag. All right, join us after the break. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Hi, I am Dr. Lee, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry and the Department of Public Health, along with our partners, are working hard to help protect residents from the novel coronavirus. Did you know the best way to help prevent infection is to avoid being exposed? So please, wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Cover your noses and mouths when coughing or sneezing. And as best as possible, keep a good distance or avoid contact with anyone with symptoms of a respiratory infection. To read more about the public health's updates, please visit hsa.ky.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. He's a name in the Lamb's Book of Life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we're going to put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Afternoon, welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, and we're talking about the upcoming Youth Parliament, and it's not only for those who encourage the students to be politically at least aware. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. That's just my thought process. Mm-hmm. It's not just for those who may want to be aspiring lawyers or other advocates, or those who may consider some role in the political arena. I think it's great. I'm very encouraged that you've had 1 or 2 or 3 years in considering further involvement in sort of the parliamentary process. So as we talk to the opposition, we have the leader, the deputy, and the opposition member for Georgetown Central, represented students here, all that from UCCI. Your motion, now that was the motion that was presented. You're looking at reducing the age for the elector from 18 to 16. Mm-hmm. Where are we now? Is this a done deal? Is it still to be debated? This whole process, where are we now?
So we're debating on Monday, actually.
Okay, this coming Monday, right?
Yes, this coming Monday, March 11th, and the public is welcome to come and support us and see the actual process and everything.
March 9th. 9th.
Yeah.
That was the last year.
Oh, March 9th.
March 9th, yeah. Commonwealth Day.
Yeah. March 9th. Isn't that Monday?
Monday.
Yeah,
coming.
that's what she said, this coming Monday, right?
Yeah.
March.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
the looks of it, hopefully we are able to sway at least one government member
to get the motion passed. Because if not, then it will fail due to the fact that government will have more votes than us. Mm-hmm. But what I don't want is them to vote no against it just because they are supposed to oppose to us. I want them to actually think about what we're saying and what we're bringing forth.
Okay.
And just not to agree because everyone says, agree.
Now, for the listening public, perhaps just 2 things then. It is this coming Monday, the 9th of March. The public is invited. What time?
From 10 to 4.
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And then we have a lunch break between 12 and 1.
Okay. You don't have the normal lunch break between 12 and 4? That's not... I should try to behave. All right, so it is this Monday, and it's a wonderful opportunity for those who can, and maybe the rebroadcast if they can't see it.
I think it's broadcasted on...
Government TV.
CRG TV?
CRG.
Yeah, I'll actually make a note to get a schedule and have it the rebroadcast days. Because unfortunately, like students, the parents have to work
Yeah.
and
And stuff,
probably
yes.
can't come out for more than an hour even if they wanted to, and it's a long process. In the Legislative Assembly that we have now, I should have asked this earlier, for the listening public, the duly elected members of the Legislative Assembly are 19. In the Youth Parliament, how many parliamentarians do you have, and how many of that are the opposition? Because you shared, we want the people to vote, not just vote along party lines. So can you share with the public?
We have 8 on opposition, and they have 9 on government, plus 2 backbenchers and the Attorney General and the Deputy Governor.
And then we have 2 students from Cayman Brac.
Yeah, that's the Attorney General and Deputy.
And then the vote then, so they have 9 plus 8, and then you said 2 backbench members.
But they can't vote.
Okay, so they don't part of either government?
Yeah, and the Attorney General
And the Deputy Governor can't vote.
as well.
Okay, so the vote between the 9 and the 8. So it's just the government has a slim majority. So you just need to sway, okay.
You just need to sway one person. Last year, our motion was passed because we swayed one person.
Okay.
So hopefully this year.
All right, well, you know what, that's...
We'll debate long and hard, and if it doesn't pass, we'll do it again.
No, and this is, I think, where we see from what you shared. Something, Mr. Porter, you were referencing your friend in Anguilla. They were looking at a similar sort of notion. You picked up on that and thought, hey, how do we do it? Compare quickly that sort of process over there. What swayed you to consider that here? I mean, well, I'll leave it to you to expound as you wish.
Okay, so Anguilla is almost the same size as Cayman, but their population is much smaller compared to Cayman. But at the same time, if such a smaller country than the Cayman Islands can think about such a powerful motion and almost get it passed, I think they got it passed.
Yeah, I think
they got it passed.
In their youth parliament.
In their youth parliament.
Yeah.
Why can't we try something here and try to get it passed? And then force these actual politicians or government members to pick up on what the youth want and actually make it a real bill motion.
To what extent do you think the youth parliament, and in particular this motion, and even the government's bill in relation to regulating e-cigarettes, reflect your peers' perspective? I mean, is this just the members of the youth parliament thinking, or do you think this is something that you're,
I think it's something that, for our motion especially, they would love. I'm not so sure about the government's motion because it's a habit now for students to be vaping. However,
be careful before you let out some of what.
However, I think they'll love our motion because they want to be involved. I know a lot of them would like to, but they don't really understand. So once they get the understanding, then they would love to be involved and actually vote and put people into perspective of who they would like to run their country.
And a lot of the parliamentarians will be there, the real ones. So we're hoping that, actually looking at our debate and everything, that we'll hopefully sway them to actually
put it to actual.
Yeah, do it for real.
Yeah, sorry.
It's a possibility. You never know.
You gotta dream big, I should be here, but it's not happening today. No, I commend you for it. And as students, I recognize that you do have demanding schedules. You also have, lives as well. Now, either in the future, and even as the summer, sort of rolls in, because it's not going to be that far before we have school breaks, including summer. We would love very much. I know Jambo and the Youth Flex team do a great job at engaging. We would like to equally extend and offer up this platform as a continuing voice. I know the Youth Parliament is something that some must pay attention to, others really don't want to get snippets.
True.
All right. Could we then, as we wrap up our discussion, perhaps close up with some final thoughts, out of respect for what I think may be protocol? The opposition member, then the deputy, and then the leader. Could we do it that way?
Sure.
Okay, fine. Ms. Truman?
Okay, so I encourage everyone to come out and support us. I encourage the youth of Cayman to actually get involved and know what's going on in their political system because it will affect them in the long run. And I encourage parents to support their kids to do this and not try to sway them into their direction just because they want them to go, just to allow them to figure it out for themselves.
Okay.
Thank you so much to Youth Parliament, the Legislative Assembly, for allowing us to, have a voice and actually be able to come out on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And thank you to the parliamentarians that actually come and actually view our speeches and etc. and assist us with this big day.
All right.
Yeah, I also want to thank Harney's, our sponsorship that provides us with food every Saturday. And I just want to say that I hope everyone can make it come out if they can and come with an open mindset and not a closed mindset, because we really want you to hear us and actually bring something forward.
Well, perhaps if the schedules are able, we would love to invite you back on. We can put 3 more in even and have a discussion after the Youth Parliament concludes and your schedules allow. So please consider that. Speak it over with Ms. Zena. We'll reach out to our team.
We're available.
Have a continued, wonderful afternoon and enjoy the remainder of the Youth Parliament. All right, to our listeners, we'll pause and take a break. When we come back, we have a few minutes. I'm very gracious for the opportunity to chat with our CIPS. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team. Today's biggest news.
A recent trip to London seemed very productive for the Premier. The Honourable Alden McLaughlin and the Cayman delegation returned from London on Friday night after a series of meetings, including a meeting with His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, at his private residence. The meeting focused on a Cayman Islands-based Blue-Green Fund initiative that was introduced to the Prince when he visited the Cayman Islands in March of 2019. The fund is aimed at providing financing to blue-green projects in the Caribbean. They also discussed a broad range of issues facing the Cayman Islands and the UK, including the EU listing process. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Michael Bloomberg has ended his bid for the White House after a poor showing on Super Tuesday. Bloomberg said 3 months ago, I entered the race for president to defeat Donald Trump. Today, I am leaving the office for the same reason. Mr. Bloomberg, a former mayor of New York City, has spent more than $500 million of his own money in the race to become the Democratic Party's nominee. And the release of the new James Bond film has been put back by 7 months as coronavirus continues to spread. The producer said they had moved the release of No Time to Die from April to November after careful consideration and thorough evaluation of the global theatrical marketplace. It will now come out in the UK on November 12th and in the US on November 25th. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. And we recognize, honestly, that many have such busy, hectic, and demanding schedules, and are serving police officers without question. I think the demands on them are incredible, but we're very grateful now for the opportunity to sit with PC Jodianne Powery. Thanks for coming often and sharing with us. So good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon to all the Radio Cayman listeners. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me on such short notice as well.
Well, listen, it's important, because if you message and say, hey, we need to chat about something that's important, and I say, well, do you have chocolate? And you say no, it doesn't matter. No, I shouldn't joke and jest about chocolate as much. That's important stuff.
Yeah.
No, if we can here really can extend that voice to allow the simplest to the most significant of announcements to the maybe just salutations otherwise. It's our community duty, so we're glad to do it.
Thank you so much. I was here a little bit early and I heard the young people talking, and I was very impressed. They were so well spoken and very outspoken. Sounded very passionate. I'm very impressed.
Yes. Thank you for recognizing that passion, and I enjoyed the opportunity to laugh with them, and they're serious about what they think and what they want to do. But there's a joy in life that I think, as not you, thankfully, but as not Miss Susan, because she's young like you, but somewhat when we get to a certain point, we're serious. We no longer laugh as much for some reason, you know. In that laughter, you can reflect and see how important it is. The motion that they're sponsoring within the Youth Parliament. For those who are listening, that's students, so UCCI, youth parliamentarians.
Yep.
It's not the sitting members of our legislative assembly.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, why can't we bring the age down for the elector from 18 to 16? You might say, oh, that's a good idea. You might say, I'm not so sure. But it's a discussion.
It is, and it gets you thinking too.
Yeah.
And if I'm very honest, like I'm very pleased to know that these are going to be our future leaders. I feel like if these are the children that are going to be in charge of our future, I feel good about it.
And I won't take away from what you have, right? and I, if it's because when I see education, when I see youth, like you feel encouraged. What is striking? If you, for a second, I don't know how you would, but if you're a second to ignore the motions, you know, whether there's the proposed government one in relation to regulating e-cigarettes, but you recognize that as the opposition leader shared, hey, my friend in Anguilla, so they've networked regionally and globally. They're talking and thinking about this. This is something that is affecting them, that is of concern to them, and they're picking up here. Not unlike what probably is, but we might say maybe happening when they're talking on their devices to their people everywhere, playing games and whatever, about, talk to them, the coronavirus. It's very talk to them. They're asking about, well, what are you doing about climate change? They're engaged, they're informed, they're involved. They may not necessarily know all of the stuff, but then who does?
Right. And I employ that mindset in my everyday life. I've heard people listening to me having a conversation with my 5-year-old son say, why do you speak to him like that? He's not going to understand you. And I say, well, if you never use those words to him, he will never hear them, and then he will never learn the meaning.
Yeah.
I will speak to him that way, and he will stop me and say, well, mommy, what do you mean? And then I'll explain, and then he'll know the meaning of the word and be able to use it accurately in the future.
That's right.
And so I guess it's the same type of mindset that you take when you're talking to teenagers as well. You talk to them about current events and life events that are taking place, and not let them feel like it's out of the norm.
Exactly.
For you to speak to them about those things so that they get interested, and that interest will carry on for the rest of their lives.
Well, PC Jodhpur, I was trying to find, and unlike the young people who can navigate these devices much faster, and I know what it was, and I made a note when you reached out to me to ask of you. But in speaking to the young people, it kind of it wasn't as important. So I'll come back to it in a second if I find it. But you're right. If we don't talk to our young people, our own children, respectfully, but in a way that, well, it's sensible, you know, and how are they going to build their vocabulary? How are they going to get introduced to stuff and develop, well, I don't know, sense, however you want to phrase it. This is what we do, right? But anyway, you're back to work. So I hear that a lot of great things are happening in RCIPS. You can expand from 1,000 complement to this case. That's not.
Well, there are quite a few things that are happening, but the main focus that I have today is I've been trying to make sure that everybody in the Cayman Islands know that the West Bay Police Station is going to be under construction as of the 9th of March. And so the West Bay Police Station, that is located on West Church Street in West Bay, will be closed until further notice and relocated to the Regatta Office Park off Esther Litibitz Highway.
Okay, so the physical building that we know in West Bay across from Mr. Henry Theatre near the Adventist Church, down from the post office.
All those things.
Yeah, that building
is going to be closed for a period of time. We expect it to be about 6 to 8 weeks, but obviously I can't lock that time
Right.
down. It depends on the extent of the work once it gets started.
So
But
new
we
spa, new gym, and new sauna, all those things going in. This just for
no, it's not
I
that
shouldn't do
major
that.
renovations.
She's
It's repairs, not renovations.
No, I some people going, is he ever going to behave? Probably not. But no, just for people to understand, yeah, West Bay Police Station is going to be under renovation. So physical building is, going to move. You're going to fix it up, make it more conducive, and repair the things that you have to tend to, right?
Yes.
And your staff then be at Regatta.
We're going to be at the Regatta Office Park. And that is the Windward 3 building. And the Windward 3 building is the one that is nearest to the roundabout on Esterly Tibbetts. Right across the road from Cost-U-Less or Butterfield Bank right there. And
Is that the one where the water company is in?
Yes, I believe that's the one.
Okay.
It's the one that you enter from off of Esterly Tibbetts.
Okay.
Yes. We will be in Unit 210A on the second floor of that building.
Okay.
We are going to try our very hardest to make sure that it's business as usual. We still are a 24/7 service, and we still do welcome members of the public. Our numbers will remain the same, and the number for the West Bay Police Station is 949-3999. It may be easiest for you to ring the police station now rather than have a walk-in, since it's not in the neighborhood. This is not going to take away from the officers that will be in and around the district. You will still have an officer or officers responding to reports and in and around the districts at all times.
Okay, well, you know what, it is, I know you've had notices out somewhat, and I believe if I saw it, probably everybody else has, but just in case.
So you can check on our website for any further information. You can give us a call if you have any concerns. Please do let us know. The community police officers in West Bay have been going around with flyers and putting up posters to notify the people, especially in public places like the library, the clinic, different places, churches, whatever the case may be, to make sure that people are notified that we won't be there. We will have an officer on site at the West Bay Police Station to direct people as well. And there will be a sign outside the West Bay Police Station in West Bay to direct people to where they need to go.
So as of this Monday coming, physically your presence for the ensuing period while the renovations are undertaken.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, that's reasonable, and we'll remind people from time to time.
Definitely, I will leave this here with you guys so that you have the information, and I would definitely be grateful if the reminder can go out as often as you possibly can, because we definitely don't want for anything. And remember that emergency number is 911. So if you are having an emergency, you will get a response from the police. Just make sure that you dial 911.
And respectfully, no matter where you are, call that number if you have an emergency. You don't need to go to the police station. You dial it and someone will answer.
Absolutely.
Your response as appropriate will be dispatched immediately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Well, and I think it's great to see our police stations within the districts, because I think a lot of people still walk in for different reasons. And knowing that this is going to be for just a short period of time to make it better.
Yes, it will be a short period of time. We'll try to be back as soon as possible. We know that it is an inconvenience to people for us not to be in the district itself. It just so happens that was a space that was available for the period that we needed it for.
Right.
And like I said, if you do want to have a walk-in and you happen to see a police officer on the road, there's nothing stopping you from speaking with that officer.
If I may ask and guide me, because I honestly do not know if it still exists or how it is, if it does. But way back when we used to hear, like, sit in the court, and in the court the person would have to check in with the police station at a certain time every so often, for whatever the reason, maybe part of the bail conditions or what have you. If that process is still in effect.
Right. So bail. You're asking about police bail.
In a sense, yeah.
If persons are on police bail, they're no longer going to the police stations in any case.
Okay.
They all go to the Cayman Islands Detention Center to get rebails. So it's not that it cannot be done at the police stations if absolutely necessary, but it is not encouraged in any case.
And the process of, like I said, way back when, where some people would have to attend police station, whether that was bail or otherwise. Like I said, do not know if that's still a practice, but they had to go for some reason. Every 6 o'clock on
to sign in.
Yeah, different little things.
All the sign-ins will be done at the regatta.
Okay.
So if you have to sign in to a police station, to the West Bay Police Station, your sign-in will now be at the Regatta Office Park, 210A, on the second floor.
And presumably all of those
Windward
individuals
3.
would be notified so that they can make appropriate.
Absolutely.
To, get there. And as you shared, the numbers are the same.
Yes.
Just the physical location is being,
temporarily.
Yeah. Perfect
changed.
stuff, man. Hey,
yes.
I think we understand that.
So again, the number is 949-3999 for the West Bay Police Station. If you have any concerns, we'll be moving our equipment on Sunday night. And so the service phone might be out of service just for a short period on Sunday nights for the move, but everything will be back up and running on Monday morning, hopefully.
All right. Well, appreciate it. Now, I know you have an amazing taxing schedule, but are there other things you want to share with us, PC Jody?
Nothing else is coming to mind right now. Is there anything that you would like to know?
Actually, I would,
Yes.
No, just kidding.
Nothing else is coming to mind at this time. There are some small projects that are going on. Unfortunately, it's too early to talk on those things. But we will keep a standing appointment from now on. We did discuss that last time, every first Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll make sure before days we formally cement that, so we have that, right?
All right.
And that's important. We'll get it all together, and anytime you need, I know that our team here, as always, because it's important to our CAPS, so the community knows, then it's important for us to be able to help facilitate for them to be involved.
I do have one more thing to mention. Because of community feedback and requests to the police, as of tomorrow morning, I believe, Anton Bottom will be closed from 6 a.m. till about 8 a.m. in the mornings to try to alleviate some traffic issues on the Anton Bottom Road. And I don't know if you know much about Anton Bottom Road, but they have been having a lot of speeding issues in that area. And there was recently a fatal collision in there as well. And so the concerns are not exasperated. They are genuine concerns. And so for that reason, especially with the Bontown Primary School being there as well.
So this is during weekdays?
During weekdays, between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., Anton Bottom will be closed.
Okay, and not in the evenings, returning just in the mornings?
Just in the mornings at this time.
To see how it works?
Yes, yes.
Well, I would ask, many of us as motorists, little things that we can do, little courtesy, a little attention.
I was watching a video this morning because I am coming from up that way, and so it was actually my husband who put on the video about what causes traffic. And there are experts that made this video to say that really and truly what causes traffic is one single minor ghost delay. So it's not like it doesn't have to be a collision or something that is static. It's like one minor delay. Somebody who stopped when they weren't supposed to, and it causes a ripple effect that is continuous. And so,
it certainly is, that 2 seconds here, 100 cars down.
So I said that to say that if everybody does what they're really supposed to and drive properly on the road, maybe we can try to, alleviate the traffic if these experts were correct.
Well, I think that there have been some studies to indicate just that, you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing and just, easing on your brakes a bit, next thing down the road.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And then that one traffic causes a continuous amount of traffic because people continue to do the wrong things. And
PC Power, we do have a caller joining us.
Oh,
would that be fine? Speaking to PC Julianne Power, and as a quick reminder, she joined us to remind us that as of this coming Monday, for a period of maybe 6 to 8 weeks, the West Bay Police Station is going to be under renovation and temporarily closed. We're located to Unit 210A at the Regatta Office Park. Phone lines.
Yes, and the building is Windward 3.
Windward 3.
Yes.
All right, let's go to our phones. PC Power. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Green. Good afternoon to PC Power.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon, sir.
Wonderful job the police are doing and trying to do, but one thing really, really befuddles me. What is being done about those dirt bikes? We know they're unlicensed, uninsured, being ridden around without lights in the night, in the day with impunity. And nothing seems to be being done to end this situation. It's a lawless situation. And it's a dangerous one because they can also hit a pedestrian. They mightn't kill the person, but that person could be injured badly and they'll be lame. They'll be a ward of the state because there's no insurance, there's no license, there's no legality being on the road. We see them daily. I see them all the while in the night, up and down the same ones. What is being done about it? Is it that they're above the law? Is it that there's no law? Is it that there is some reticence in trying to enforce the law? Because they must know who own these things. I mean, I just wondered, can you give us an answer about that, please? Or is it not possible? I'll hang up and listen to your answer, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Well, PC Power?
Well, the issue of the dirt bikes and the riders is definitely a sensitive topic here in the Cayman Islands. The long and short of it is we do try to enforce the traffic law as much as possible, as safe as possible when it comes to the dirt bikes. The fact of the matter is that we don't necessarily know who own these bikes. A lot of the time when the riders are riding, they either have on helmets that you can't see them, or they have on masks on their face and you can't identify them. Officers have to then assess the situation and see if it is safe for them to pursue these bikes. And a lot of the time that assessment is done, and it seems it may appear at the time that it is not in the best interest of the public to pursue a motorcycle, whether it be because it is dangerous to their own safety, to the safety of other road users, if a high-speed chase was to take place on a public road. And so what we try to do is we try to have operations, and we've done this in the past, where we employ the assistance of the helicopter, for instance, to be able to track those riders without there being a road safety issue involving a police vehicle. And this has been done in the past, and there has been arrests in the past, and we have seized motorbikes. And what has also happened is that the law has now been amended so that not only do we seize the motorcycles, but the court can issue a seize and destroy. So because these bikes are not roadworthy, a lot of the times they are not registered, they are then destroyed to try to reduce the amount of them that are on the roadways. It is not something that is easy to police by any means, but we do try to do our best.
Okay. Well, PC Power, thank you. And this is where I think having that continuing dialogue the opportunity for our CPS to come on and share our perspective with the public. We're very grateful to it.
Thank you. And to the caller or to any of the listeners who are having this problem in their communities, please do let your community officers know that this is happening. You can go on our website to see who the beat officers are in your area. Please do. I encourage people to download the mobile app. You can also send us tips through the mobile app. You can send videos and pictures attached to those tips. You can choose to be anonymous or choose to leave your name so that you can get feedback from the information that you've sent in to see what has taken place to fix whatever the problem is. And we'll definitely do our best. It's not that it is not being policed. It's just that it is a difficult thing to police.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts us in a difficult position as well, weighing the cost of public interest as well as the safety, not just of the officers, but the safety of persons on the road, other road users, as well as the safety of that offender, because that is important as well.
Right.
So
we do have one other caller, PC Power.
Sure.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your guest.
And to you, Mom. Good afternoon.
I must agree with your last caller, and I've heard this over and over and over again, and we keep getting the same answers from our police force, and I don't think that it is right to be getting the same answers, because we see more and more and more of this happening. Another thing that I've seen, and I've seen that over and over, well, 3 nights ago, ahead of me was the police car. Ahead of the police car, we were going south. Ahead of the police car was 2 other cars. The 2 other cars, one of them had green lights on that I could see it. Then if I could see it, why not them? And the car was not stopped. Nothing was done. And every time that I don't want to sound angry, but it makes me angry, because every time there is a complaint of this sort, or with these young guys wearing no helmet, no nothing, no license, no nothing, they keep adding to the police force, and that's not to solve the problem. The problem is to take it in hand and enforce the law, regardless of who that young fellow may be, or who is he for, or whoever is doing it. It needs to be stopped, because in other countries, and God knows I know a lot about other countries, in other countries, that would have been stopped. They would have been locked up, or other things might have happened that I do not want to say on the radio, but we need to take this more seriously before they get killed, or before they run through the windshield of an innocent person and kill that person or persons that is in the car. And I know that some of the police try very hard, but more need to be done. We have enough police. God knows that. We have enough police. Bigger countries don't have as much as we have, so it needs to be enforced more. I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All of you have a good afternoon.
And you do as well. Thank you very much. And I'll show you 2 photos I'll send in as we talk of pictures of people, I don't know, riding their bikes with their, demonstrating their skills.
Okay. Absolutely. I do not make light of the complaint, Sterling, by any
Yes, ma'am.
means. And I definitely will take this back to our senior command team and see what can be done about it. Because every complaint from the public is important. And I will, in terms of the lights on the vehicle, I will check that in the traffic law to see what the offenses are, and definitely bring it to the light of not just the traffic unit but also the patrol unit, so that they can be aware of it as well.
Well, thank you. And as we have, these continued sessions, the opportunity to share, to maybe clarify, maybe to get more of us to be at the very least conscious of some of the things. And as you shared, just simply our behavior as we drive into work in the morning, are we doing our part to make traffic flow safely, smoothly?
Safety is our first and major concern. And so with everything else that we do, that is the one thing that we definitely weigh all the odds on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again very, very much. Look forward to having you chat with us again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, PC Julian Puri, and a reminder that the West Bay Police Station, as of Monday, is going to be closed.
Monday, 9th of March.
Relocated to the Regatta Office Park.
Yes.
Unit 2A, 210A.
210A, Unit 210A on the Windward 3 building. And the easiest entrance to that location is from the Esteli Tibbetts Highway.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mom.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to pause and take a break. And during the break, I'll get some water, sample of chocolate, some cheese. No, I won't. When we come back, it'll be open line. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
2020 means perfect vision, and if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
Country
classics.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
On the road again. They're gonna put me in the movies.
Papa Top again.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Well, I love
country
classics.
Young love, first love.
You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
If you enjoy classic country music, come hang out with Radio Cayman this Saturday, 3:30 to 6 p.m.
In the Mississippi cotton picking Delta town.
This Saturday afternoon, following American Country Countdown,
3:30 to 6 on Radio Cayman.
Just walk on by. Wait on the corner.
Country classics.
Radio Cayman News.
Cabinet approves travel restrictions for those who've recently traveled to China. Speaker of the House, the Honorable Makiva Bush, broke his silence about an alleged assault.
The premier stated, quote, "The most important immediate issue is for the Speaker to seek the treatment that he references in his statement."
The EU blacklisting of Cayman, which, is hugely disappointing.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning.
Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to. No. Give me Jesus in the morning. For the God of the mountain is still God in the
Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Hi, I am Dr. Lee, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry and the Department of Public Health, along with our partners, are working hard to help protect residents from the novel coronavirus. Did you know the best way to help prevent infection is to avoid being exposed? So please, wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Cover your noses and mouths when coughing or sneezing. And as best as possible, keep a good distance or avoid contact with anyone with symptoms of a respiratory infection. To read more about the public health's updates, please visit hsa.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Afternoon and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. All right, Miss Susan, we're going to have some wonderful opportunity here to share with our guests as we try a different thing this afternoon. All right. Now, in the interest of joining our public, Mr. Wire Rankin, be an upstanding gentleman and join me this afternoon, sir. Welcome for this. I was thinking, standing sometimes, you have to be a man to stand in the gap. Sometimes you have to be willing to stand up for right and fight for what you're in. And as a demonstration, I guess, that they say oftentimes we look at the media and we see the news anchors and the like presenting the news, standing up, no longer seated at the table. Let's try something different, Mr. Rankin. Would join me as we stand, sir? Right? Not as a moment of a silence nor total attention, but just stand.
No problem.
All right.
Good afternoon to your loyal listening audience, of course.
All right. Well, let's see if I can get this right. But no, good afternoon. Thank you for, it's not quite an hour, but at least sharing the next 50 minutes or so with us.
Yeah.
I was very encouraged earlier. We had 3 of the students from UCCI who are participating in our youth parliament. And they were members of the opposition, and they were sponsoring a motion that says, hey, let's reduce the age at which you can become a registered voter from 18 to 16.
Yeah. Well, I think if you can graduate from high school and become a productive member of society, which many has done in the past, obviously, because if becoming an adult or a semi-adult at 16, meaning that if you graduate from the Cayman Islands High School at 16, and for whatever reason wasn't able to go on to tertiary education or to further your education, regardless of what capacity, and then you essentially got a job and started contributing your portion of to society. I think that if you could have the responsibility, or if you could be trusted with the responsibility to have a job, that certainly you should have the right to vote as well. And that's just my personal opinion.
No, and this is the encouraging part of the parliament.
I would go a step further.
Yes.
So that we could eliminate that in-between process. So my opinion is that every single Caymanian that is a Caymanian and have the right to vote, once they come at a certain age, they should automatically be on the voters registration list by default, by compulsory.
Yeah.
The fact that we have individuals who don't get registered because they don't want to do jury duty is not a choice that they should have, in my personal opinion.
Well, even if it is that you don't want to be called, no, I agree with you. It's part of your civic duty.
Correct.
Right?
It is.
But the two shouldn't coexist, so that it precludes or serves as some excuse as to why you don't want to be a registered voter.
Well, the thing is that as a Caymanian, every Caymanian should have the God-given right to have the opportunity to vote. I don't think it should be a matter of them going to fill out a form and getting registered to vote at this particular time period and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of issues that we're seeing right now. I mean, for a person to get on the voters registration list is absolutely ridiculous. You go in, you fill out the application form, you provide all the necessary documents, and yet it takes 3 months for you to be on the registered list. It's just ridiculous. It's not like we got millions of people, right? You got a couple hundred people a year, if that. So the process shouldn't take that long. And if it is a matter of, it's procedure, we need a judge or somebody to sign off, well, I'd have a judge or have somebody that's in-house that could verify these documents that are handed in so that they can have these people on the voters registration list. It's absolutely ridiculous that system
Make it less
is in
cumbersome,
place.
less expensive.
And we could eliminate all of that by simply saying, look, you're Caymanian, you're on the list.
Yeah.
And if you get called for jury duty, then so be it, because you drive down the road every day on these beautiful roads and all of the infrastructure that we have, and you're not directly paying for it. So if you have to contribute a couple of hours or a couple of weeks out of your time to do something civic for the island, then no one should cry foul on that.
But that's
my opinion.
And I appreciate you sharing with me as we stand there for a second, and maybe cause people to look and reflect, right? But the idea that as we live in this community, right, there's some who would probably say, well, okay, I know jury duty is this taxing thing, is this. But at the end of the day, a few have shared it's their workload, their employers' sort of sentiments that make them a little reticent for wanting to serve.
Well, again, I go back to the same thing. I know my generation, I have many colleagues and school friends who are super successful in today's society who went to government school that didn't cost $1, right? And you don't really appreciate those things until you see individuals who have been through that system, who has become an extremely productive member of society in many ways and making huge contributions. Right. And so it's a small price to pay. We get all these things for free, Sterling, but yet nobody wants to pay for them. We quick to complain about a lot of stuff,
but we don't see the cost. All right, so can I invite you to take a seat, sir?
Of course.
All right. Well, Mr. Rankin, we're going to have to talk about that. You can share the inside story. And we want you to call and share your thoughts, though. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Not to belabor the whole discussion in the Youth Parliament. I want to ask about other things, but the other thing that I found striking, they were very conscious, as expected,
right,
that the age to vote now is 18, but the age that you're eligible, once you satisfy everything else, you got to be at least 21 years of age and older to be eligible
for
to
what?
Stand.
Oh, for an election?
Yeah, to stand.
Well,
right?
that I can understand.
Yeah, well,
and to a certain degree, and we could argue both sides of it.
Yeah,
and the reason why I say that is that obviously when we look at our legislation, our policies, and different things, we would prefer to know that we have individuals who have quite a bit of experience, not only in Parliament but on seeing other things, being around long enough. And again, I know some very super astute young people who, in my opinion, are far more astute and well-rounded than some of the older ones. But it still doesn't change the fact that hopefully in the future we'll be picking from a very good harvest of politicians. Educated democracy is what I'm fighting for, and what I would love to see happen in a small jurisdiction like Cayman.
And I'll invite you to maybe share with us, because one of the most encouraging things as we sit and chat with you publicly is opportunity to spark off your insight, your interest, your intellect, but the way that through our discussion publicly others encourage. But the final thought with respect to the Youth Parliament, given that our Constitution, the present one,
right,
passed in 2009, it is
relatively young.
Yeah, it is a relatively new document. It is perhaps as opposed to, say, the U.S. Constitution, that is a philosophy of some sort. This is a working document, administratively, sort of how we're going to run the country, as it were. Right. Perhaps as a result, it needs to be like the standard operating procedures within a business, or the manual that you get with the new electronic device, if they still come with manuals. You look at it, how does this thing work? How do I service it? And the like. So with that, perhaps our Constitution needs to be under review fairly frequently to make sure.
Well, yeah.
Right? While we do that, our youth... go ahead.
Well, first I would like to say that, I super enjoy and I encourage Youth Parliament to continue. In fact, I wish that it would grow. And certainly I'm not saying that a young person isn't capable. I'm just saying that I think 21 to run for general election is a pretty fair age, which is still relatively young.
Yeah.
However, I think that in anything that it should have a good variety that creates a good balance of people.
Right. And I think too, it's potentially, as we look at our Constitution, as we consider who's eligible to be elected, who's eligible to be the elector, the voter, how we look at the composition of it, perhaps a lower house could be a lower house that's comprised of younger individuals that may either serve as oversight, may provide non-binding. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we could do if we were willing to craft something that is, what's the word, bespoke to our own jurisdiction.
Well, when we look at the Constitution in its current form, there are a few mechanisms in there that allow anybody at any age to participate once they're a registered voter. And certainly I really take on the idea of being able to register from 16 if we're not going to go to an automatic default system, right? Which I think would be best, because it eliminates a huge process that creates a unfair gap for people getting on the list in a timely fashion. I mean, we saw a great example of that with this last referendum, where some persons who were registered to vote prior to the date of the referendum, but wouldn't have been on the official list until the following year, and then those persons wouldn't have been able to exercise their democratic rights simply because of a system that's in place that prevents it. So, whenever the Constitution have any hindrances in it that prevents Caymanians' continuity, we need to take a strong look at it. And back to my initial point is that within that Constitution, you don't have to be an elected member to make a difference in your government. 7,000 people signed a petition to trigger a referendum. Neither of them are elected.
Yeah.
Right. So we had an opportunity to play a part in the political process. So what I would like to encourage is that more people get involved on that level. We should have a look at the Constitution on a frequent basis to make sure that we weed out any of the hindrances that's in the Constitution, and there are a few. It's not a perfect document, and instead of pointing fingers, maybe we should identify some of those things, have a reasonable conversation about it, and see how best to move forward when it comes to amending some of these things or changing them completely.
Okay. Well, in the studio we have the excellent company of Mr. Mario Rankin, and we invite you to call to share your thoughts. 949-8037, or toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. There's a WhatsApp, Mario, 925-3261. I have an email to read. I want to be able to see it better.
You forgot your glasses.
Again today. I just put the screen far enough away. I can see it. And this one, I think, is speaking to the Constitution, the issue with respect to the Speaker and the electors, and then the elections and all this stuff.
Right.
So I don't read that. But before I do, let's join one of our callers as we go to the phones. We invite you to call and share your thoughts as well. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Yes, sir. Afternoon, Mr. Dwayne and Maria.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you?
Pretty good. One, a little concern I have with Mario, he mentioned about jury duty. And the way he talk, it look, it sound like, it's not a big deal to serve as jury.
A jury, yes, yeah.
And I'm saying, why should the government force you to do something that you don't want to do? I don't know if you can explain that to me. Why? Where's your right? Your human right?
Well, let me just explain it to you like this, so that you understand what I mean. And the reality is that in any properly run jurisdiction, there are certain laws and certain policies and certain things that you abide by. You don't always like them, but you abide by them because that is the rule and thumb of that particular jurisdiction that you're in. So when you say that your human rights is potentially being violated because the government selected you for jury duty, so what happens when you're driving down the road and you break the speed limit? And your thoughts are that you're in a hurry to get to a place, and you might have a just reason, a justification for going faster than the speed limit. However, you are in violation of that limit, so therefore you're subjected to a ticket, and that you'll have to pay in the courts, or anything else. So are you saying then?
Yeah, that's breaking the law. I'm talking about why should you have to force to do something that you don't want to do? Why the government should force it?
Well, the government isn't forcing you to do anything you don't want to do, right? When you have a system like jury duty selection is a random selection, and people are called for their civic duty, right? And when you don't adhere to that, there are policies and laws that are in place. So the minute that you don't abide by that selection, which is in the Constitution and which is the law, then you are in breach of the law. So if you are selected for jury duty and you choose not to come because you feel like you're being violated or your time is more important, you've just committed an offense under that section of the law. So it's not much. The traffic law is different from that law, obviously, but it's the law. The reality is that I never said that doing jury duty is not a big deal. I just simply said is that doing jury duty is a lesser price to pay when we enjoy good roads, schools, and all the things that we don't pay for directly. And for anyone to say, oh, well, my time is way more important than going to sit down and doing jury duty, you're not realizing and you're not even understanding that all the other things that you get for free that is not directly related or connected to jury duty. And if the government was to choose tomorrow morning and say, okay, all of our public schools now you got to pay a school fee, everybody would be up in arms. Well, why you got to charge us to send our children to school? They've never done it before. Well, you know what? Now we got to pay people to go do jury duty. So therefore, we got to find revenue for that to accommodate that. So everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die. So
I heard your philosophy, but back to what I'm saying. It is mandatory, That's
it's a law, sir. Is what I'm saying to you. So if you don't go, you breaking the law. It's the same thing as a ticket. It's the same thing as crime. It's the same thing of everything else. So, I think that answers your question.
Well, okay.
All right. If I could ask you, what could we do for jury duty that would make it less onerous, maybe make it more appealing, however you want to word it, so that more people would not feel so, I don't know, what would we use?
Well, my analyst doing the way I see it, I think that one who's going to serve as a jury should go through some training.
Okay.
I think those people should be trained and have and reserve that whenever time you need those people, you can call on them.
But why?
You can't. You can't have one fixed set of jurors. You just can't, because then you run risk of those jurors being tampered with, because now everybody know who the juror is going to be. Listen, the reality is that we have a law in place. We have a system in place. Why should the government have to make jury duty more attractive so that we can please people? Listen, it is something that you have to deal with. Just like how we have
civic duty.
We have to abide by the road laws. We have to pay for our groceries. We have to participate in the things that allow us to live the life that we live. And for us to have a conversation about how we could better fix up jury duty, something that I don't even understand, that is not even remotely worse than what people make it out to be, other than they think that it's a gross waste of time, right? But you try telling that to the person that's on trial,
right?
Yes, sir. I don't think it's a waste of time to serve the country.
That's my precise point. I agree with you on that one.
The point I'm making is that I believe, because certainly some of the people that I see they're choosing randomly to serve, I wouldn't want those people to judge me, because I don't think they know right from wrong.
But that's your opinion.
And I'm saying that I think it should be a law in place where you have a bunch of people that train randomly across the island for this purpose. Whenever time you need these people, you can select them randomly.
So professional jurors, then, to Mr. Rankin's point, then, do you think, other than the obvious risk, that potentially then you're limiting the pool even more so and making it that much more onerous on that number of people?
Person wouldn't be able to get a fair trial if you have fixed jurors.
I don't see the point of saying you would be able to get a fair trial. You got judge and lawyer.
You're convicted by the jurors of the peers of the people who are in that box. The judge doesn't convict you.
And that is my concern. You're gonna convict by people who has no knowledge, no training. So some of them don't even know wrong from right, and that is my concern. Why should you force to do something that you don't even train for?
Well, I hear what you're sharing, but then you have, let's say it's a criminal case, for argument's sake, and you have the defense lawyer, you have the prosecuting attorney for the Crown, then you have the judge, and then the judge sort of makes sure that the conduct and the procedures are within the law, and then the directions to the jurors, right?
There's one other point we're missing, Yeah. You know that a person has a right to be judged by judge or by jury.
Right.
So those people who choose juror has taken that position.
Yeah.
So therefore that eliminates the idea that why should I be judged by a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing?
Right.
People elect that. That's a choice that they make in the court.
Judge your prayer. So, well, before I continue asking, what else you wanted to share, sir?
Well, that was, that's all I have to share.
Yeah.
For now. It's just the way I think, Mario has get it across. It's not a big deal,
No, I hear what you're saying, and not to defend him, but I thought what he was trying to say is that how I interpret it, the idea of our civic duty, just like, going to vote, serving jury duty. Some of us would say even donating blood. Some would say volunteering with our schools. That those are things in civil society that may be incumbent upon us as responsible citizens to take on. If it's only once a year, maybe it's every quarter. But I hear your point. It's something to consider. All right, sir. Hey, thanks very, very much. And appreciate what you're sharing. But it's a contentious issue, I think for some people, the self-employed as well as that employee who may feel that it's challenging.
Again, Sterling, I'm not going to move from my position. It's not a big deal to be a juror.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because if we had to weigh in on what we get versus what we give, we'll see that there's a huge difference. So for me, it's a non-issue for me. In fact, it's not something that I feel anyone should have a great big deal. But that's my personal opinion, and anybody have the right, like the person that just called. Obviously, he has the right to express how he feel, and I'm not disagreeing with it.
No.
I'm just basically saying is that when we talk about certain things that we speak only from the surface, and we don't peel back the layers of onion to understand the true mechanisms of all the things or what's at play, it's easy for us to draw the first assumption based on emotions, because if you were to do a survey tomorrow morning of 100 people, Sterling, I bet you 99 out of them will say, no, I don't like to do jury duty, or I don't want to do jury duty for their own personal reasons.
Right.
However, my point is that I don't think it's the end of the world if you are selected to do jury duty, because again, and I'll repeat it, all of the things that we enjoy, all of the things that we don't pay for directly are things that we take for granted in a lot of cases. So whenever we are called on to do something that we have to give back a little, then all of a sudden we got issue. And the government not forcing you to do it. The government simply said, look, just like how we have policies in place that allow this to happen, we also have a policy in place that so that we can have access to individuals who can take part in the process, that they need people.
Right.
You know how much money it would cost to train people? And even that, is there such a thing as a trained juror?
Professional juror? Wow.
Then they would need a law degree.
Perhaps. I hear your point.
But anyway.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's pause and take the break. When we come back, we invite our callers to share. Certainly always grateful for Mr. Rankin's opinion. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The governor visits the Utility Regulation and Competition Office for a tour of the facilities and to meet with staff. During his visit, His Excellency Martin Roper was briefed about OFREG's role as the local fuel, ICT, electricity and water sectors regulator and spoke to employees about their jobs with the organization. The governor later met with members of OFREG's board of directors and senior management team, during which he was briefed on the agency's regulatory work and its challenges. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. The U.S. military has conducted an airstrike against Taliban fighters in Afghanistan just hours after U.S. President Donald Trump said he had had a very good talk with a leader of the group. The U.S. signed a deal with the Taliban on Saturday aimed at bringing peace to Afghanistan after years of war. But a U.S. forces spokesman said it launched an airstrike today in response to Taliban fighters attacking Afghan forces in Helmand province. The Taliban called for de-escalation. And Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has urged women to have 6 children for the good of the country. Appearing at a televised event promoting a national women's health care plan, Mr. Maduro instructed women to give birth. The country is facing an economic crisis which has resulted in severe food and medicine shortages. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, said between 2013 and 2018, 13% of Venezuelan children were malnourished. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, and thanks equally to Mario Rankin for sitting in. We do have a couple of callers online.
Awesome.
Let's go to our phones. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hello.
I'm not bad. How are you guys?
Oh, always thankful. Always blessed.
Well, that's good. Well, I would like to jump in on that thing about the jurors. As long as I can recall, I've heard that jurors were picked from a voter's list. It is an anonymous pick. They don't go through it and go by district to district to say, well, I'm taking them all from one place. And I think that this is another thing that means somebody from other burr bounds want to tell us how to do something or how to live and do something. It would be totally, I think, biased to have a set of people all the time being jurors, because if you had a clean set of jurors, then that's what it would be. You would know exactly who's going to sit on a case for you. And I think that it's always an anonymous pick. You never know who's going to be there. And when you go there, you have a choice of your lawyer or your side to reject, object, or accept. And so that's why it's called, and it's more than the quantity they need. So they pick from that. And I can believe that we would have people here trying to tell us that we should have allocated people. Because for one thing, the person used the comment that some of what he there, he don't think could come up. They're never going to pick somebody that's supposed to be illiterate, somebody that's not well or of special needs. Those people are not chosen. So everybody's supposed to be an intelligent, sensible person coming from a juror's list, a voter's list, and then you become a juror. So I don't know what that is all about, but I guess it's another one of those things that...
And one of the risks that you run with that also is that then people will have the potential to go out and talk to these train their own set of jurors. And so I don't think there's such a thing. And I think it's in my opinion, that's not something that I would support.
It's ludicrous. I think it's a pile of hogwash right then and there, because it's coming from a voters list, and the judicial system that gets that duty to pick the jurors and make all the reasons for them. And I've always heard it's been a stipend that they're paid. It's not, you got some professionals there that make people that earn hundreds of dollars a day, and then if they're offering them a stipend, they know already that their civic or civic, that is what it is when you're going to be a juror. So I don't know why somebody else want to come and try to sit and tell us how to put into our jury. So that is my piece.
Yes, ma'am. All right. You too. Thanks very much. Mr. Rankin, we do have another caller. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling. Good afternoon.
Okay.
How are you?
All right.
My friend, thanks for sharing your thoughts, man.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mario.
Afternoon, brother.
Yes. So, but Mario, I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Who make the laws?
Well, the legislators.
Who the legislators is?
They're supposed to be the Caymanians that work for us, because we elect them.
What? Yet they make laws for who? For you or me?
Well, when you mean they make laws for who, you gotta be more specific, because at the end of the day, right? When you look at the Constitution, and you look at the legislation and the laws that are in place, it's supposed to be geared towards ensuring that the continuity of those people in that jurisdiction are allowed to be governed and under a system that creates civil order, peace, and opportunity. So there are many different laws, there are many different policies, there are many different constitutional orders, but they're not all right. And we can argue about some of them that they might impede on what we feel is our right. But at the end of the day, it's not a perfect document. But when we have a situation where somebody is saying, "Oh well, I shouldn't be forced to be a juror because it wastes my time," my argument to that is that, okay, let's say we were to put in place a payment system for jurors, and then that money had to come out from other funds that was then particularly allocated for some other thing that we benefit from, and then that start to go derelict, and then we start complaining, "Oh well, how come we got potholes on this road, or how come we got no lights on here, or how come needs assessment unit?" All the things that we appropriate funds for then become affected because we had to create a whole new revenue stream to pay for something that people weren't happy about. So at the end of the day, it's like a domino effect. You see, Daniel, and we can argue which laws we don't like, compared to the ones that we do like. But at the end of the day, every one of them, and there are some laws in our books that need to be wiped off completely.
Yep. Yep.
So, and I think me and you'll agree on that. And
yeah, but Mario, if there's a law, right, that don't go on with my morals, I am obliged to disobey it. You understand? You understand that?
In your personal capacity, yeah.
In my personal capacity, yes.
Mm-hmm.
As much and as far as I can go, right? So if somebody is paying somebody, or say they got a gun at me, and they forcing me to do a law that I'm not supposed to do, then what the word is for that?
Yeah, well, you got to remember now, you know, what you're talking about is that, okay, some of the laws are put in place to appease a certain section of society, and they're paying to enforce that position by lobbying their government or people. Right? I get what you're saying. But at the end of the day, right, even though we know that in other jurisdictions, even right here, that may be the case in some cases, then how do you remedy that? How do you go about weeding that sort of thing out? You see, that's why when we were talking earlier about people getting involved with certain processes, you don't need to be a politician to get involved. You just have to be willing to stand in that gap. You got to be willing to stand in the line of fire. You got to be willing to, because you know how many times people say, oh, Mario, and I signed that petition because my child is on a scholarship from government. Let me tell you something. That for me, but I only can speak for me, You see, that's where I differ from those people. Is that because I don't fear losing that scholarship for my child for speaking up for what I believe is right. But you see, we don't have enough people who are willing to do that.
No, what you just said, the mean word there, fear.
Yeah, fear is a hell of a thing.
Fear from who? Fear from the same person that's supposed to be providing all these good things that you paying, you say that you don't pay for. You understand? And I don't agree with that. So I like what you're saying, but you gotta make sure that if they're gonna say one thing, you can't come and spit the next thing. Like you can't come in.
You're confusing what I said. You obviously confused what I said because I'm not saying two things. I'm not saying two things. All I'm saying to you is what I said was, so you understand, is that I don't mind going to be a juror knowing that my children can go to public school for free, knowing that I drive on relatively the best roads in the Caribbean. Mario, Dion, Rankin do not have a problem with that specifically. So I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying how it gonna be that we live in a democracy, yet you're gonna force me to go do something I don't want to do.
Yeah, but you are forced to abide by the laws of the country. It's the same thing.
Forced to abide by what?
You are forced to abide by the laws. If you don't abide by the laws, you pay the consequences. That's simple. Same thing with the jury duty. They're not forcing you to be a jury duty. It is your requirement as a civil citizen of this country. And if you don't do it, you have repercussions. That is the law, Daniel.
Show me one time that it go for both sides.
For both sides of what?
Show me how much times you see somebody that got money can pay their way out or something. Okay then.
That's a total different discussion you're talking about right now.
All right, I know. All right, leave it at that.
All right. With that in mind, call Miss Susan. All right, let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
A special good afternoon going out to Mr. Mario.
Thank you very much. Afternoon
Mario,
to you.
Hear how you going to get rid of all of this now. My wonderful government is going to find a funding. You know, we can find the fund.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to begin to pay us jurors $1,000 for the hour. Cayman Island dollar.
You have them lined up on that list to get on that list then.
And a poor Caymanian like me that looks forward to jury duty but will not serve because of my circumstances, I would not get an opportunity to get into the courthouse to be vetted. Look here, if you don't want to live here, the flight's still leaving every day, and then the old government that cusses every day for paying a belly back to won't be able to force nobody to do nothing. But at the end of the day, I can stand alongside of them because this is my country and they are my government.
That's right.
Look here, all of my life I looked forward to doing jury duty. I was called twice. Unfortunately for me, I would never have that privilege because I couldn't serve because of my own personal circumstances.
Right.
And I'll never have that opportunity to serve because I'm long in the tooth and I'll be too old before long. So for anybody in this country, however they came here, that now sat down, filled up all the papers to get to be called, and they don't have any reason more than to say, I don't want the government to force me. This is not a forcing government.
Imagine that.
But if you feel the government is forcing you, something smoking out your every day.
You know.
Every day, more than one time of the day. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, caller.
Because, again, I got my duties here.
I have to resonate with what this caller and the one before Daniel. And I think that what they said in not so many words, and I'm not afraid, I can tell you, I'm not afraid to say it. You see, because we have so many different cultural makeup of different regions of the world in our society, and they've come here, they've enjoyed the jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction has made them who they are, has given them an opportunity like they couldn't get where they came from. And understand, I'm not saying they shouldn't voice their opinion, Sterling. What I'm saying is that if we have a mutual understanding that there are some things that we have to do in order to maintain and enjoy the things that we have, then that's just how it is. Because the flight that they took here from wherever they came from wasn't for free. The process that they went through to be where they are today, again, came at a price. It was the very same time in which they complain about today that they had to put in order to be able to have an opportunity to say what they say. Now, where I have to agree with Daniel is that, and I think what he was trying to say, if I'm not mistaken, is that why we don't have better laws that protect us before anything else. And then anything else that has to be integrated within our society have to abide by it without question. Certainly, I can't go to certain jurisdictions and become a citizen of their country and call in on a radio show to talk about what we do or what we don't do or what I don't want to do, right? But again, you see, if Mario Rankin was in charge, and I can tell you right now, Sterling, is that we'll have a moratorium on Cayman statuses and we'll have a moratorium on permanent residences at this particular moment. Not saying that we won't ever grant any, we won't ever look at applications. I am just simply saying, from a cultural standpoint, we have not been able to digest this spike in our radar of this influx of people who have come to our shores and call Cayman home and participate within our environment, and then systematically try to change it for it to become just like where they ran from. And when we put up some level of resistance, then we become anti this and we become anti that. And we're nothing like that, because let me tell you something. Cayman is the least anti place in the entire world. You know why? We got 130 different nationalities. We have an open door policy for permanent residences and PR and statuses. You understand? So at the end of the day, you know that it's easier to get a permanent residence in Cayman than it is for Cayman to get a job?
So I've been told, man. Mr. Rankin, Susan shares we could take one quick call before we go to the break. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
No, I thought it was one call before me.
Well, it's you.
Want to say whoop whoop. Bye.
There you go. That was quick. All right, we're going to pause to take that break, and when we come back, more talk today.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Camana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
Imagine if we all practice safe driving. Imagine if we all refused single-use plastic. Imagine if we all turned off lights when not in use. We can all do our part in making Cayman Islands safer, cleaner, and greener. Together, we can achieve. Visit gov.ky/safer, cleaner, greener to learn more.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And in the studio, thanks equally to Mr. Mario Rankin for his company. Susan, was I hearing you correctly? We have a call? Is that oxtail and lima beans? I could eat some of that right now. Well, let's go to the phones all the same. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
No, this is corn turtle. This is not oxtail and lima beans.
You see, I wouldn't ask for that because I thought it would be impossible to get, but even better. Just one question, though. Do I need to call Ray Banker? Because he wants some of that,
I need to get that recipe.
So, corn turtle.
Tell Ray Banker he can't get a recipe because he's too young for that.
How are you today?
That's out of Bushtree Hill, so he can't have that one. He's a Boston Bear. He needs to. Oh, he's a Hell Road man. He needs to sit down by hell. Okay, good afternoon, you guys. That's a very important topic.
Yes, Mom.
I want to agree with the last caller that you just had on air there with everything she just said. And I want to also agree with Mario. Mario, what we need to do, we need to go back to the drawing board. When you come to residency and status, they need to put their pictures back in the papers. That'll be number one, because we need to know who's coming in to our neighborhood or our communities. And we somewhere else, they don't have to stay in Cayman. If they want to go home, they go home. If they want to go to the next man's country, go right ahead. We will survive. We were the time forgotten. We'll soon be time forgotten again. Because they're raping us right, left, and center. But God is on our side, and as long as we hold on to Him, He'll hold on to us. So tell Him to keep going. Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for sharing. Mr. Rankin, we do have another caller.
Let's keep him flowing.
Well, actually, let's read this. Well, okay. Susan, caller, what's up? I'm just trying to figure out which one. 2 WhatsApps to read and a caller. So respectful. Awesome. Let's take the caller. Let's go to the caller first. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, I know people used to think that if you weren't a registered juror, that you wouldn't be called to be a juror. I mean, a registered voter. If you weren't a registered voter, you would not be called for jury duty, but that is not so. They can still call you whether you are a registered voter or not.
Okay. So
I'd like to agree with that last lady that called in. I said so long time ago. Definitely, what we used to do before, when people are applying for status or resident, they need to put their pictures in the paper with their name, and I think they also need to put where they came from as well, because we don't know who is who around this place anymore, whether they got status or they're just visiting or working or idling or gambling or what they're doing.
All right, well, thanks for sharing that.
It needs to stop. Too many people already have it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And with that, perhaps I'll read this first WhatsApp. Mario Rankin is always, gracious to accept the invite to come sit with us. It says, good afternoon. Says, I agree with Mario Rankin that there needs to be a moratorium on Cayman status, as our island is too small to continue to accommodate the level of status and PR grants. Okay, that's from one listener. Here is another listener who writes in, sometimes you have to wonder, where my fingers touch these things. Says, read a previous caller about the jury duty, who is concerned about jury, which I happen to personally believe is an important part of each individual's civic duty as a citizen, as well as being an accused person's right to be judged by a jury of his or her peers, which has long been the tradition within democratic societies. But as to the concern about the jurors being properly qualified, so to speak, we must not forget that after a matter has been heard, the judge will have time with the jury to direct the jury on aspects of law to bear in mind, and which things must not be borne in mind when you're going to make your decision. Therefore, I'm a little bit amiss as to what the person is confused about in terms of jurors having necessary knowledge to make the decisions. But I think it speaks to a couple of things. One, like the members of the Youth Parliament earlier, our students within our schools, civics, our parliamentary procedure, not just encourage them, but also the things that happen in the courts that we take for granted. Perhaps not just the law, the general respect that we should have for law and order and police, but what is the authority? And
I could understand if Cayman were the only place in the world that was doing this jury thing. This takes place all over the world, including where that person originally came from that made those comments. But Sterling, when we look at when we go back to the whole population growth and and different cultural backgrounds and all those different things. Now, I want to be very clear, is that I never said that we need a moratorium for status and permanent residences because I don't want nobody coming here.
No.
What I'm saying that for is because we haven't been able to properly digest the already existing number of individuals who have come to our shores.
Like this person says, to be able to accommodate.
Yeah.
Seems okay.
Yeah,
right.
and okay. And I know I'll get crucified for this, but again, I don't really care. There's not much more they can do to me from a public standpoint. So here's the thing: we'll look around Cayman. We look at the construction boom. We look at all of the things that are being built right now today. And again, I'm not anti-development. I'm not anti-progress. I'm not anti-anything. What I'm saying is that I can see the writing on the wall. We look at all the development today. We look at the class of the development. We look at the cost of the development. We look at where the developments are being built. And you have to ask yourself, who are they building that for? Who are they building all of these accommodations that are costing us $600 to $1 million a piece? Because I can assure you that it's not for the local Caymanian people. Okay? So that great construction boom has to be on the cuffs of the anticipation that our borders will remain open the way that they are now, so that people can continue to come here, occupy this island, be a part of the system, and then eventually become a Caymanian. And they would be the individuals who are going to occupy all of these spaces that are now currently being built. And again, to be very clear, I don't have a problem with people building development to accommodate and people coming in. I'm just simply saying, is it being done on a sustainable basis? Is it being done where we know that at some point, or do we know at some point, or is there a plan? Is it strategic? Because if we center every single thing that we do from a policy standpoint, or lack of, around dollars and cents, then we have really missed the boat. We've really lost the plot. Okay? Because when you put the continuity of your people, if you put the cost of that over what we're currently doing, it far outweighs. It comes, the moral price comes in way heavier than what it is we're doing.
The social cost.
The social cost. And we need to be very, very, very clear on what it is we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we're going to get there, and who's going to participate in it. Now, you'll hear people who's in the development arena now, who's developing these high-end places right now, probably listening to this, pulling their hair out. Well, let's make sure Mario never get in power. Let's make sure Mario don't influence anybody. The problem is that people like me, who speak up about things that doesn't suit or fit into the puzzle space that they have open and available for their development, they then spend the lobbyist dollars to put politicians in who are in favor, who are like-minded, who are interested in the money. And that's where the greatest illusion in the world comes in.
From what you're sharing.
The greatest illusion is that the people with money fund campaigns. Then the campaign essentially convinced the people who never benefits from the things that are about to happen. So the money people campaign the politicians use that money to convince the people elect those politicians, and then those politicians look out for the best interests of those who paid for the campaign and leaving the small man on the bottom. And we never get anything from it. All we get is that little turkey and that little ham and that little personal written note saying you're invited to my party at Christmas. And those are the things that Caymanians used to be comfortable with. And that was because they weren't losing their homes and that they could pay their bills, and the cost of living didn't shift into 42nd gear and left them behind. Because back then things were attainable, things were sustainable, where, but now that we've seen where these things have grown tremendously, and Caymanians are no longer able to pay their bills and no longer to suffice with the things that they once could have. And now we see where Cayman is being redeveloped for a whole different set of individuals that do not look through the same historical lens that we do too. Sure. And that's the reality, and if anybody want to contradict that, they go right ahead, but they're writing on the wall.
So different values. What is it the old people remind us? Don't cut off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
So from what you're sharing, that's kind of maybe what we need to remember.
We do, Sterling, and I feel it because, when I look at Caymanian people, and even to those who have come here and contributed their time and whatnot and become rightfully a part of our society. I feel it for us not being able to keep a grip on what our historical lens was. I'm not saying that we should rewind the hands of time and go back. I'm just simply saying is that anything that we do should resemble who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. You understand? We should never forget who we are, and anything that we do should be sustainable to our people first. And if somebody want to paint me with the stroke that Mario is all these different things because I want to make sure that Cayman remain for Caymanians, then by all means go right ahead. It don't matter to me. So, all right, power to all of those people.
Well, Mario, thank you. And as I close out, someone listening send a WhatsApp question asking, will the critical current issue Ray, our speaker, affect the sitting of Youth Parliament scheduled on Monday? I would say no, because obviously it's the Youth Parliament and so on. But by the end of the day, it's going to be an interesting time in our thing. Now, can I read this last WhatsApp? Really appreciate when you come on, man. I mean, people listen. They feel encouraged and empowered, man. This person listening writes, and hopefully by saying person, there's a sense of respect, 'cause I appreciate everybody listening, whether they're male or female, whether they're voter or no voter, they listen in this comment. Says that comment from Mario on development is so true. As right now, I read an article that the government is now going to tackle high rent and house prices. These big developers are only building for high-end persons. With the exception of Frank Hall Homes and a few other small developments, there's no housing for the middle class.
It is so true. And Airbnb, because they just threw it right in the mix, has created a lot of issues for rental market, and it has driven up the cost of living in that area simply because rent has almost quadrupled. Because people are using a lot of their spaces now for Airbnb. And I'm not saying Airbnb don't have a role to play, but I think that it needs to be like how it is in Florida. And how it is in Florida is that you're only allowed to rent one of the units like 3 times a year. Because remember, again, we do these things, on an overnight basis where we cut and paste certain things. We don't properly think out how these things are going to affect certain markets. And then these are the repercussions of it. Now to that person's text, when they talk about looking at the government saying they're going to tackle high rent, the government is who created that problem by introducing Airbnb without a proper plan. They created it. So if anybody should be tackling it, they're absolutely right. It should be them. And again, we need to become more of a proactive society as opposed to reactive. But thank you, Radio Cayman, and thank you to your loyal listeners. I'm glad everybody called in and participated today.
Thank you very much for encouraging the callers. Equally, thank our listeners for having the courage, for appreciating that this radio station is funded by your taxpayer dollars, and we serve a community service. So, and despite Miss Susan having to put up with me, it can't be all bad. So reward her by just listening to the excellent music that she's going to play for the next half hour or so. And that 3 hours following some great music by our excellent on-air talent. Then we have an hour of news. We even pick up the BBC Sports, to wrap it up. We got a Caribbean. I mean, it's really, come on. You don't even need nothing else, right? But, we just got it all for everybody. And if he doesn't mind me saying, JJ the Iceman, he does a fantastic job come 7 o'clock in the afternoon. But I see they just carved for him perfectly. All right. Tomorrow is Thursday. And we have something on our cards for tomorrow, Mr. Rankin. Got 2 young attorneys scheduled to join us. Silpa, Cara. There's this alphabet soup of things unfolding, and sometimes I try to pay attention. One of the young attorneys, he is from a lineage of people that I think he's like, you have Henry the 15th. He's probably like, in that vein as well.
I should tune in then for sure.
Yeah, man. That's the plan. Hopefully they can make it and join us, and we have a chance to chat with them. Well, that's tomorrow. Business Buzz is in the morning, Miss Susan. But before you go there, this afternoon, we got the Youth Flex. So until then, be blessed.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Pure and cleaner.
Puritan Cleaners, serving the Cayman Islands for over 60 years. Now offering 12% off ladies and gents wearing apparel, $20 and up prepaid, or 10% off pickup within 7 days. All household items standard 10% off prepaid. This offer good at all our stores until further notice. Savannah Countryside, Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, Eastern Avenue, Georgetown, 949-7104. Drive through, rain or shine. A great special. You feel good when you look good.
Voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.